You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Now, as our listeners to the Paracast know, on last week's episode, we had a last-minute fill-in guest who actually was quite a good guest, Robert Schroeder, who came up with an intriguing idea, not his original idea, but certainly something he had looked into, that may explain how one can achieve interstellar travel from star to star. And he went into this elaborate thing where traveling several light years to Proxima Centauri would involve a trip that would be physically 25 miles. Now, strangely enough here, which kind of surprised me, and Randall, you can give me your comments briefly before we get to our guest, Rick Doty, in a moment here. Some listeners felt I was being very rude to Robert, who's such a sweet guy. And what's your impression? Do you think I was unduly rude because maybe I didn't completely agree with him?
No, I thought that we were just exploring the topic. And actually, I think I received a follow-up email from Robert, who was really quite happy to have been on the show. So I think we did really good there to satisfy kind of both sides of the equation.
I kind of wondered, I saw some posts on YouTube about it. And this is the first time that a show that seems so civil seemed to strike some people as out of the rails. In fact, a couple of listeners, or actually one listener, in our forum said the same thing. I was interrupting him. I was being rude to him. And I've disagreed with people before in a far more vociferous manner and never heard such a thing. Chris, did you hear the show at all?
You know, I did. And then I also remember his inaugural appearance on the show where I thought that we actually were a little bit more strident with him the first time he came around. And he seemed quite willing to come on back and do a second round. So I think that indicates our good intentions and the fact that we are professional here at the Paracast. And I think this week's guest, Richard Doty, will leave the show with that same impression. We're going to ask hard questions, but we do so with respect and with the understanding that we're just trying to get to the bottom of various issues that are of interest to the host of the show and, of course, our listening public.
The thing to mention with Robert is that he loved being on the show. He liked it so much he came back on After the Paracast, and we were joined by Greg Bishop. And he doesn't have a problem mixing it up or disagreeing with people. That's not something that should indicate hate. He enjoyed it. He's really, really had a good time, and we did too. He's a nice guy. I mean, if I had a chance to have a dinner with some people who listen to the show, I'd include him. Why the heck not? Just because maybe we have a few disagreements. If you did that, you'd never have dinner with anybody.
All right. Also, RD6 Killer Clark, I think, was another example. People felt that I was very rude and short with her. And after the show, she said that she had never had such a good time on a show and that this was her favorite show to do. So, you know, it's all in the ear of the beholder, I guess, or something.
Rick Doty, I've heard about you for a long, long time, since the 1980s. But you have a background, which I gather here is strictly in the military. It says here you were born in New York State. Whereabouts?
Barton, 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 New York. It's east of Elmira, New York.
Okay.
In the southern tier area.
My goodness, I'm right there as we speak. I'm in Chemung.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right around the corner from where I was born.
Yeah. Coincidence, a very interesting coincidence.
So entering the Air Force, was this part of the family ties? Were your parents in the Air Force?
My father was.
Uh-huh.
My father was in the Air Force.
It says here from your bio that you specialized, I guess, in intelligence. How so? Why?
Okay. In 1978, I joined the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. I went to an intelligence school in Washington, D.C. I was trained in counterintelligence, counterespionage. And then I was sent to, my first assignment was Kirtland Air Force Base with Air Force OSI District 17. And that was in 1978. And while I was assigned to Kirtland, an incident happened whereby a at Kirtland, there was a classified, at that time classified, a weapons storage area called Monsanto Base. It stored nuclear weapons. And some security personnel guarding that site observed a strange object hovering around the storage area. And then later on that same night, or actually early the next morning, a security guard for Sandia National Laboratories, which has their main manufacturing facility is on Kirtland Air Force Base. This security guard observed a flying, he referred to it as a flying saucer in the canyon area, which landed and created some problems for that area. And I was assigned to investigate that incident. But prior to investigating it, I had to be briefed into a special program. And that special program involved the U.S. government's investigation and contacts with UFOs, investigating UFOs since the late 40s. And so I was sent to an Air Force Special Security Office on the base, and an officer there, a colonel, full-blood colonel, briefed me into the program. And that's how I became involved in this subject.
Which colonel was that?
I don't know that I want to mention his name. He's still alive and he's still around. But he was part of the Air Force Special Security Office, which grants security clearances for special category access.
Now, speaking of colonels, one of our regular listeners, Curtis Collins, sent me a note asking if you were acquainted at all with a Colonel Weaver and a Colonel Hennessy.
Yes.
Okay, how...
Yes, Colonel Weaver.
Please.
Colonel Weaver was somebody who was also assigned to this special program, and Colonel Hennessy was the overall commander of a special projects branch of the Air Force OSI.
Now, the question I would have here is, prior to getting hooked into this thing because of that sighting, had you at all paid any attention to UFOs?
No, I had nothing to do, never had any interest in them. I had a brother who was 2 years older than me. He was the UFO buff in the family. He would read all the UFO True magazines and read I think the first or second book that George Adamski had written, but I was never interested in it.
Having been exposed to this, was it a matter of doing the work, or did you find yourself being, shall we say, sucked in?
Oh, no, I wasn't sucked in. That was my job. My duties was I was a special agent with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, and I had duties to perform, and this was one of the duties I had to perform. I was given this case by my supervisor, and at that time, my supervisor was John Brisboy. He was my supervisor at Kirtland. He gave me the assignment, and I investigated it and carried out my duties.
We've got a lot more to come with Rick Doty, starting with his early years working as an Air Force officer and becoming acquainted with the UFO phenomenon. We got a lot more to come, and a lot of listener questions, as you might expect. With Gene, Chris, and J. Randall Murphy, you're in
the Paracast.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of T-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great T-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
I tried other brands, but I came back to my Sunshine.
For the best hot or cold pain relief, get the best. Get a Sunny Bay heating pad.
Sometimes life can be a pain in the neck or back or shoulder.
And the best relief for that pain is a Sunny Bay heating pad. Did you know that the American College of Physicians said that one of the best ways to treat muscle pain is heat therapy? Sunny Bay heating pads are handmade with high quality, can be used at home or at work, and have a lifetime 100% positive rating on both Amazon and Etsy.
Why take another pill?
Many people use our Sunny Bay heating pads alone and got rid of the neck pain.
Long distance travel or long hours in front of a computer can take its toll on your body.
See why our homegrown small business at sunny-bay.com has tried to help people just like you. Get your Sunny Bay heating pads at sunny-bay.com. That's sunny-bay.com or call 253-678-1361 for hot and cold therapy. sunny-bay.com.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of Slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
It's a no-brainer. A Big Berkey water filter is the one you need, period. You need a water filter that removes chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, BPA, and other endocrine disruptors, pesticides, bacteria, viruses, and much more, right? And does it all at only 2 cents per gallon. Get the original and most trusted name in gravity water filtration, Big Berkey. And now GCN listeners receive 5% off ceramic filter systems using code GCN. Call or click 1-877-99-BERKEY or BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
From his palatial estate in upstate New York, or the state of confusion in upstate New York. You know, he likes that. I have a friend who I give the same introduction, palatial estate. He lives in this lovely converted barn near Stratford-on-Avon in the UK. And I think we'd all like to just leave our homes and maybe occupy one of his spare rooms.
I think drafty, dusty old barn house might even be more appropriate, but I digress. I have a question, though, Gene, for our guest. First of all, Rick, you have quite a reputation over the years. There's been a lot of people that have been talking about you, and you've been a particularly hard person to pin down by shows like the Paracast. How many radio shows have you actually done where you've talked about your your past with the AFOSI and some of the projects that you're involved with.
I did the Art Bell show once.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was in the late 90s, and I did the Coast to Coast with George Norrie once, and I've done maybe one or two others.
Okay. Why have you agreed to come on our show? I know we're persistent, and we've made quite a number of requests over the years to try to get you on the show, but why did you agree to come on the show to begin with?
Well, I like to set the story straight, so to speak. I've been criticized and sometimes humiliated online about what I did or what I didn't do or what I could have done over the years. During my career, I was labeled as a disinformation officer for the Air Force, and none of that's true. I did my job. My job was to investigate counterintelligence, counterespionage operations or incidents, and that's exactly what I did. I did it. Mm-hmm. I was rewarded for it. I got rewards for it within the intelligence community, and I was allowed to leave and carried on another career after that. So right. I just want to set the story straight.
Let me ask you a quick question before Chris follows up, looking at UFOs. Now, over the years, we've gotten the impression here, at least it's claimed, that the Air Force, that the military hasn't taken UFOs all that seriously, except perhaps for Project Blue Book. And even this most recent project we heard about, the Pentagon UFO study, so-called, they gave up on it when they could. So watching what was going on and the work you were doing, didn't you get the impression that the people that you were working with really, really were seriously interested in this?
Well, I knew they were. I was briefed into a program. I was showed highly classified information about the Roswell incident, about some other incidents. I had access to other investigations or other incidents that had happened around the United States and some overseas. The Air Force had an active program to investigate any UFO incidents that happened on an Air Force base, near an Air Force base, or involving Air Force resources. And that means airplanes or any other type of resources. They had that, and they still have it today. I know they do because I have friends that are still in the intelligence community.
They'd be crazy not to.
Exactly. I mean, anybody with any common sense, stop and think about it. There's things that happen out there, and I agree that Project Blue Book, most of those cases in Project Blue Book could be readily answered by something else. I mean, by a natural known phenomenon. But right. There were approximately 1,900 of them that involved extraterrestrial craft. I read the report. It was classified. It's one of the derivatives of the Blue Book investigation, but it's never been declassified, so it's still there. But they can categorically say, yes, these 1,900 and whatever they were extraterrestrial crafts.
Well, in light of that, and one of your first investigations being a landed unidentified craft at near one of the largest underground storage facilities of nuclear materials in the world on a classified area of an Air Force base, I would think that would be a bit of a priority for the Air Force to want to investigate. You mentioned that you've seen classified information at the time relating to this phenomenon. How much can you talk about Roswell? How much can you talk about some of the more celebrated cases, let's say Malmstrom 78? I'm sure when you were there at Kirtland, you were hearing about UFOs showing up around some of the missile silos outside of in Cascade County up in Montana, for instance, around Malmstrom Air Force Base. I mean, how much can you discuss about these particular incidences and case files that were opened as a result of these incursions into airspace, restricted airspace? How much can we talk about that with you?
You can ask me any question you want. I can 90% of it I would discuss. There's probably some that I personally consider that maybe too sensitive to discuss, but the Air Force has blown this out of proportion over these years. When I filed lawsuit some years ago against somebody. The Air Force initially wanted to back me, and then they turned their back on me. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to tell it like it is. And if they want to come after me, let them come after me. And I've been talking about it for probably the last 10 or 12 years. And I got out of what left the Air Force I left the service of the OSI in 1988. And although they called me back to active duty in 1993, but it didn't have anything to do with UFOs. It had something to do with something else I had worked on. But I talked to General Richard B.A., who was the general in charge of OSI. Okay. And so all this stuff will eventually come out. And so I decided, what the heck? I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it.
That's absolutely terrific.
The Roswell incident, and I've talked about this before on air. The Roswell incident, I was briefed on the Roswell incident. I saw an actual film that was created by the Air Force. The Roswell incident, there's very few people that actually got it right. But the Roswell incident, there was the way it was investigated by the Air Force, what it was determined, it wasn't just the Air Force involved in this, Los Alamos National Laboratories and other agencies. But in 1947, 2 extraterrestrial aircrafts flying around New Mexico. There was a huge electrical storm. Somehow the 2 crafts crashed. It collided in air. One landed southeast of Corona, New Mexico, thus being the Roswell crash site. And one landed over near Magdalena, west of Magdalena in Horse Mesa.
Well, it looks like here we're going to certainly hear a very, very different slant on the Roswell case, so we're all going to be interested in what Rick has to say. So let's do the break now, but let me remind you first that we have the Paracast Plus waiting for you to join it. We offer a version of this show that's free of the network ads. We offer the After the Paracast podcast and other goodies. So check it out. Go to plus.theparacast.com. Once again, that's plus.theparacast.com. We got more to come with Gene, Chris, and Randall. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I'm here to tell you about GCNtelecare.com, a team of board-certified doctors assisting you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Within 15 minutes of registration, care your family can afford. Revolutionizing the healthcare industry, virtual consulting providing diagnosis of non-emergency medical issues by phone or secure video on computer or smart mobile devices. GCNtelecare.com. Virtual care anywhere.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Hey folks, Tom D for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, ghosts, zombies, UFOs, crop circles, and more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people who seek a little more than the other dating services offer. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and you want to connect with others, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. So many people want to share their experiences with the paranormal, the afterlife, the unusual, and this is the place to meet and share common interests with those of like minds. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com. That's ParanormalDate.com. Use the code word GEORGE and start meeting others. Get going now and connect with someone you like.
If you owe money to the IRS, you need to hear this. The IRS is cracking down on those who owe back taxes. It starts with a devastating letter, and if you don't act immediately, you could find yourself having your wages garnished or have a lien placed on your property. But there's a solution. Tax 10,000 can help. Avoid enforced compliance, where these holds on your income and seizure of your home could become a nightmare that just won't end. Call 800-239-9957 now and speak to one of our experts. 800-239-9957 is the number to link you directly to a tax resolution specialist who will negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, all the forms will be handled for you. All you have to do is make the toll-free call. 800-239-9957. Find out if you qualify and possibly save yourself thousands of dollars, not to mention a lot of headaches. It could be the best call you've made today. That number again, 800-239-9957. The service does not provide tax settlement or legal services. We will refer you to a company that does provide such services. Often the IRS will not agree to any reduction in the amount owed. Not all taxpayers who owe more than $10,000 will qualify for a tax reduction program.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-5759. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-959-5759. That's 1-800-959-5759. 1-800-959-5759.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
By the way, if you hear Chris's keyboard going full steam, he's got the noisiest keyboard on the planet. I gave it to him.
Sorry, I had, for some reason, my setting went to the internal mic on the computer. I'm sorry about that. I've gone ahead and made the change.
Go ahead, let's continue. Rick Doty telling us about the Roswell crash, which turns out to be 2 crashes. So we're both recovered then, right, Rick?
Yes, one crash site involved 2 locations. One, the actual the craft was located some distance from that crash was a debris field, a large debris field. And that debris field was found initially by the rancher. And later on, the military found the actual craft with one alien still alive. They recovered it. They sent it to Los Alamos. I don't know the full story about the ET that they found. There wasn't a whole lot in the briefing about that, other than he died it was a male, it died in 1952. The second crash site in Horse Mesa, very remote area, was found in 1949 by some ranchers. Now, the craft was there pretty much intact, and all the 6 extraterrestrials, the creatures, were all thrown from the craft, but they were all highly decayed, and there wasn't much left of their bodies. But that site was examined by the Air Force. All the debris and everything was sent to Los Alamos and later on to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
And where was that?
Actually, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
No, where was the crash site?
It was in Horse Mesa. If you look on the map, on the Mexico map, and you find Magdalena, and you go southwest of Magdalena, you'll find a place called Horse Mesa, and up just above that is where the crash site was located by a couple ranchers. I believe they were relocating cattle. And,
okay, so when you say you were briefed about this, are you talking about you're just looking at some documentation, or did they present you with a film or a slideshow? Did you see pictures? What sort of evidence of this did you get?
No, it was a full briefing. And I wasn't the only one in the room. There were a number of other people in the room. I believe at the time I was briefed, there were at least 10, 12, and maybe 1 or 2 more. They have an actual briefing film. It's a film that was probably created, I don't know, 5 or 6 years prior to me seeing it in 1978, and then it had been updated. But the briefing film, contained old footage of the recovery operation in New Mexico and in both locations in New Mexico. And it was this, and then the colonel that was given this briefing would reiterate on certain aspects of what the United States government was doing or had done since then. The briefing film only contained how the United States became involved in this subject, and it started in 1948. There was never any mention about anything prior to 1947, the Roswell incident. Was never anything ever mentioned in this briefing film.
So you saw films of the actual craft and the recovery. Is that what you're saying? Can you confirm that?
Yes. It was the old film. It was old footage of the actual recovery operation in Roswell, or in both locations in New Mexico, showing the craft, showing the alien bodies. There was one small segment, probably 10 or 15, that showed the live creature, but they just briefly mentioned it, that the creature was transported to a facility, and they didn't mention a whole lot about that during that film. But the briefing film was, like I said, was a narrative of everything the United States had done from 47 on, and mentioned several different crash sites, that Roswell and one in Aztec, New Mexico, and one in Nevada.
All right, you mentioned Aztec. Is this the one in 1948 that's so controversial?
Well, actually, it wasn't 48. I believe it was 51. I don't recall the exact date of that, but it was after. It was at least a couple of years after.
Okay, so this is not the one that Frank Scully wrote about in this very controversial book, and that has been a subject of controversy. This is a totally different episode in Aztec. I take it then, from what you're telling me, we can get into more of the logistics and such, that these captured spaceships are still being held somewhere, right, Patterson, or somewhere else?
No, they're out in Nevada. They're out at the Air Force Test and Evaluation Site, which is everybody calls Area 51. At least the last time I knew they were. I can't speak for now right today, but the last time I knew they were out there.
Is there any truth to Lazar's claims then, you think?
Yeah, another part of what I did was I actually worked out in Area 51 in 1983, 1984. I went temporary duty out there to conduct some investigations. And so I had access to that location. Now, I don't know. I mean, I never saw Lazar, and I read what he said, and he describes S2 pretty clearly. I mean, what he either somebody told him all this, or he was actually there, because he describes the location very accurate.
Okay, so when you were out there, then that might be on the operation that you alluded to in another interview, where you were talking about Janet Airlines, and you were dealing with, you alluded to an airline company that was shuttling people back and forth out there. Is that what? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was there. I don't know how many times. I spent probably 4 months the first time, and then I don't know how many other times, but over a period of about 18 months, I think I probably was there 6 or 7 times. So I was briefed in. I had the access for most of the locations on in that area. Not everything. I mean, everybody doesn't get access to everything. So there was probably a lot of things that were going on there that I didn't see or didn't have access to.
In connection with your work, what exactly were you doing, and why do you think you were brought into this program?
Well, I was brought into the program to investigate incidents of UFOs sightings or incidents involving extraterrestrial contacts on or near Air Force installation or involving Air Force property or personnel. I mean, I wasn't the only one. There was 122 other, 121, but there's 122 of us, OSI agents, that were briefed into the program that were conducting investigations worldwide during the 70s and 80s.
This is quite extraordinary because we know that the overflow from Blue Book went to the OSI, but up until now, it's anything we've heard about it is it was just kind of an underfunded office where they really didn't want the responsibility and pretty much just filed things away, never to be seen again. But you're saying that they had a dedicated program here as part of Special Projects OSI with over 100 people involved. I mean, that dwarfs Blue Book.
Dwarfs.
Yes,
it's not even in
this is worldwide. Now let me clarify something. 122 OSI agents. That doesn't count the support people that were involved, the secretaries, or the analysts, or the some linguists involved. And I don't know the total number, but I'd say probably with all the support personnel, it would be at least 200.
So when you got a sighting, then I mean, would they give you access to a jet and you'd fly out to, a location to investigate, or how did it actually go down?
Let's do our break, and we'll continue with that with Randall, Gene, and Chris. You're in.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there's The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
The answer to being in control of your own healthcare is freedom from insurance. Become part of a group of self-pay patients that come together to share in each other's medical expenses. Individual share amounts begin at $107 a month and $347 for families. Choose from 3 health-sharing programs. Holistic treatments may be eligible for sharing. See guidelines. Discount programs available for dental, vision, and pharmacy. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Anytime, any place, anywhere. Radio remains the most intimate of all forms of media. At home, at work, in the car, on smartphones. Over 90% of consumers still listen to radio every week. That makes choosing radio as a place to advertise your business one of the best decisions you can make. Email advertise@gcnlive.com and partner up with an experienced GCN representative. Advertise@gcnlive.com. Easy, affordable, effective.
Are you retired or facing retirement and you're afraid your income is going to be less than you'd like? I'm Pharmacist Keith. Dr. Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and I want to show you a low-cost way to create your own business working around your current schedule, creating extra income that will last for years to come by joining Dr. Wallach's crusade, spreading his message of better health. To learn more, visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com, radio.recordedvideo.com, or call 866-257-3105 for a recorded message.
Hello, my name is Marjorie Wildcraft. I'm the founder of the Grow Network, which is an online community of people who produce their own food and medicine. We are really into backyard self-reliance. If you want this lifestyle, I suggest your first step be to learn some basic home medicine. Just the other day, my 18-year-old son came to me and said, "Mama, I got a sore throat. Can you fix me up?" And I said, "Sure, Ryan." And in about 24 hours, he was better. The best home medicine for you to start out with is garlic. It's an amazing natural antibiotic, and I can show you how to use garlic to handle ear infections, sore throats, colds, and flus. As a way for you to get to know a little bit more about me and the Grow Network, I've written up an easy introduction on how to use garlic. It's at gcnwellness.com. Now, the station manager told me that I needed to say the URL at least twice, even though it feels kind of weird. But if you're interested in backyard self-reliance, you are one of us. Go to www.gcnwellness.com and let's connect up.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to goberkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. goberkey.com.
Hi, this is Bryce Abel. I'm the producer of Dark Skies, the co-author of AD After Disclosure, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Rick Doty telling us here about his work for the Air Force and his exposure to evidence about Roswell. You want to continue with that question, Randall?
Yeah, sure. So before the break, I was asking, okay, so you guys get the reports in from a various base. Then what would happen? Would they assign you a pilot in an airplane and you'd head out to the base and interview people, or what was your procedure there?
Well, it depends on who. We had areas to cover. Mine was the southwest. I covered New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona, southwestern portion of Colorado. I went to Utah on a special assignment involving something to that effect. But if something occurred, myself and another agent, there would be always two agents, maybe even more. We would get a flight. Probably most of the time we flew just commercial. I mean, it wasn't an emergency. We'd get a commercial flight and we'd fly to that location and rent a car and go out and invest.
And did you present yourselves pretty casually, or were you sort of more the MIB types? Did you show up in black suits and white shirts? Or how exactly did you present yourself?
Well, first of all, Air Force outside special agents, we weren't military. We were civilians, so we didn't wear uniforms. We wore civilian clothes, and we would just wear casual civilian clothes or a suit. I've been asked this question 1,000 times. I'd never owned a black suit, so I didn't wear a black suit. I was never accused of being men in black.
So you were the three men in khaki, right?
Yeah, 3 men in khaki, right?
Right. No fedoras, no wraparound black sunglasses, nothing. Skinny black ties, late model 50s Cadillacs, that sort of thing.
No, nothing like that. Not me. That must have been the other secret people. That must have been the CIA guys.
Speaking of which, I want to ask you about that, since you're involved in intelligence work when you were with the Air Force. Did you encounter, to be blunt, other spooks from other agencies?
Yes, I did. Actually, we had a confrontation once between the OSI and the NSA, and that was involving the Bennewitz.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. But Rick, I must say this is fascinating. These are revelations, if true, that I think very, very few people are aware of. The extent and the width and breadth of interest by the official interest by the Air Force into these types of claims by witnesses, and seeing actual film of crashes, film of bodies. These are highly sensational claims that you're making here. I have a question here from one of our listeners, Without Limits. He's wondering, based on all your 10 years of active duty and your investigations, and I want you to tell me how many approximately you actually went out on in 10 years, but where do you come down on the reality of UFOs? It sounds like this is a slam dunk yes. We are being visited by beings from somewhere else, and there's no question about their reality. Is this so? And if so, do you have any indication of knowledge of where these craft and beings are coming from?
Oh, I'm thoroughly convinced we've been visited, at least from. I mean, the Air Force acknowledges that we've been visited at least from 1947 on. I can't speak for anything that occurred before that because I was never briefed into that. I've heard of rumors and stuff, but I don't talk about rumors. I only talk about what I know, and what I know is fact, or what I saw, or what I developed myself. And so, yes, we have been, and I've said this before, and others have said it. We've been visited by probably more than one extraterrestrial race. I think one of the better researchers that has done her job, so to speak, was Linda Moulton Howe. That's something I'm sure you're going to ask me about, the incident involving Linda, and what we did to investigate her and what she had done and what she was trying to do. But she had, during the time that I had contact with Linda Moulton Howe, she had so many sources within the intelligence community that the government was scared. That she was actually getting people within the intelligence community, the CIA, the DIA, NSA, OSI, to tell her things that she should know. So, as far as visiting, I think if you took this to court and presented this case to court about whether we had been visited, I think any jury would reach a verdict in a matter of a few minutes after listening to all the evidence.
Now, when you say the government was nervous about Linda Moulton Howe as a journalist knowing too much, there's been some suggestion about other journalists in the past, such as Dorothy Kilgallen, and being involved with Kennedy and so on. Did you ever hear any rumors, or do you have any insider information that can link up some of the misfortune that they incurred in connection with any of this stuff?
Only what I've read in open sources. I mean, I don't have any particular inside story about her or anyone else. I stay away from that. I'm going to tell you what I know, what I saw, and what I did, and I don't speculate on what other people have done or what other people might know or something. But we can't answer that question.
Let me ask you a specific question, though. Back to Roswell. Now we've had the Roswell spaceships on ice or over now at Area 51, plus where they were before, for decades. Have we learned anything about them? Have we been able to decode or reverse engineer alien technology? And of course, we all remember that book, The Day After Roswell, written by Colonel Corso and, of course, Bill Burns, that claimed that we did, although some people regard the specific inventions mentioned as being questionable. Are you aware of anything being reverse engineered, any technology that would not have existed or would not have been perfected were it not for the presence of an alien craft?
No, I'm not a scientist. I was never briefed into any kind of scientific program or R&D program. So I can't answer that question. I'm not sure whether we have. I've read about whether we have or not. Me personally, I don't know.
On another show, you were quoted as saying that the Cash-Landrum operation was a total failure. So it sounds like you've had some involvement with that. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, the Cash-Landrum case was, in fact, a reverse-engineered craft. It was a extraterrestrial craft using a propulsion system that the U.S. government created or manufactured. And it was an flying operation from one base to another base. And something went wrong, and it spurred out some radiation and affected those people on the ground. Now, that's what I know about it. I mean, I don't know technically how it was engineered or reverse engineered or which craft that they reverse engineered, or whether it was the Roswell craft or the Aztec or whatever other craft that they recovered. But I know by reading a report in maybe a year or two later, a couple of years later, probably 82 or 83, that specifically mentioned that the craft had experienced some major malfunctions.
So that's what you meant by it was a failure, not that that there was some subterfuge involved in influencing the witnesses or anything, but the actual operation to move the craft went awry.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Good. Got you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that'll be found to be very interesting by one of our forum participants.
Randall, good question. And, speaking about foreign participants, did you ever work overseas, Rick, with other counterintelligence agencies from other countries? For instance, in England, you have the Rendlesham case. Did you dovetail, or did AFOSI dovetail their efforts, or were they called in by other countries to assist in retrievals or incidences that needed some real expert attention?
I was stationed in Germany at Air Force OSI headquarters, Europe. And during that time period, I didn't. My main job wasn't to investigate UFOs. It was counterespionage. During that time period in the 80s, we were fighting the Soviets behind, back in the bushes, so to speak.
Right.
But I did have occasion to work with the German and the Swiss intelligence service on a couple cases. And in Switzerland, we went down to interview Billy Muir, and with the Swiss asked us to come in, myself and two other, one other agent, and then a scientist, an Air Force scientist.
Let me do the break here, guys, and then we'll continue. More with Rick Doty and Gene and Chris and Randall. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Block-It Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockItPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockItPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockItPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
Tired of being censored by Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Patreon? Well, now you don't have to be. OneWay.com is the free speech and human-friendly social network built just for you. Stop feeding the beast. Every post you make on those evil, anti-human, anti-American perverted sites helps them destroy our families, our country, and our souls. Join One Way today and take back your liberty. Your free speech alternative is waiting for you at OneWay.com. OneWay.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Rick Doty had started into a description here about his service, and I wanted you to continue that, Rick. We had to break
Billy
for
Meyer.
commercial.
Well, we went to Switzerland. The Swiss intelligence service asked us to look at some things, some photographs, and some documents that they obtained from this guy by the name of Bill Amir, a farmer. And so we went there, and the three of us, and we went down. We spoke to Swiss intel officer. He briefed us on what they had obtained from their sources. And then we actually went out. Now, let me go back a little bit. I was a German linguist, so I could speak German. I went to German language school, and so I could speak German. So we went to his house, his farm, and we spent one full day and then part of the next day. And he was very open to us, showed us everything that he claimed he'd take pictures of and all the different cameras he used and so forth. Well, when we went back to the Swiss intelligence office in Bern, we sat around a table, and the Swiss asked us, "What do you guys think of this? What do you think?" And every one of us, our opinions were that it was a hoax, complete hoax. The angle, the camera angles, the way he took the picture of the items that he took the picture of were fabricated. So our conclusion to the Swiss intelligence, and we were doing this for the Swiss, we didn't actually do our own investigation. We were there with the Swiss, was that he fabricated everything and it was a hoax. And
Michael Horn, take notes.
In probably 1985, I believe, in the latter part of 86 it was a hoax. And I never heard anything more about it until I started reading all this open source stuff that people have written about it.
Well, some people today, even today, think that the Billy Meyer claims are real and legitimate. Well, thank you for setting the record straight on that one.
How about the Bentwaters or Rendlesham stuff? Did you have any involvement with that?
No, I was never involved in that at all.
How about the Project Serpo, which many people believe are...
Let me go back to the Bentwaters in Randall Forest just a minute. In 1984, I was in headquarters OSI in Washington, D.C., and Colonel Law, who was in charge of counterintelligence at that time, Directorate OSI, he allowed me to read the Bentwaters OSI case file. That's the only access or any knowledge I had of the Bentwaters case.
Okay. Now, and did it seem legit?
Well, the case made the conclusion that it was an extraterrestrial craft, but that's OSI talking. It wasn't any kind of professional scientific analysis. It was just OSI. The agents investigated it, said this craft had to have been extraterrestrial. And they did their investigation. They did their radiation analysis. They took a lot of pictures. They interviewed everyone involved, and they came up with their final case and their opinion and sent it on to the Secretary of the Air Force. So that's basically what the report said.
Okay, so back to hoaxes. Then there's this Project Serpo here. We have one of our forum people, Mo Deeb, and he's asking what your involvement was with that and how you might explain how they say in the Mirageman documentary that your IP address was connected to emails that were sent to Victor Martinez.
Well, I'd like to, let's go to court on that. I've already tried this. I already went to court once on this with a guy who claimed that he had all this proof that I fabricated the Serpo document and others, not just the Serpo, the MJ-12 documents. And he's spreading these lies about me. So I hired an attorney, spent a lot of money, and then he shut up saying, well, you know what? We can't really prove it. It's not really there. But let me tell you the Serpo story.
Who do you think is behind it, if you can tell us that, too?
DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency. If you read everything, if you read this stuff, I wish I was smart enough to have written that. I mean, people making $1 million on it, writing books about it. I wish I would have written.
Len Caston did not make $1 million writing a book on Serpo. I'm sorry.
I heard a quote at the UFO convention that these people made $1 million. End the quote. So I don't know who made the $1 million.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, Rick, nobody. Well, a few do. But almost nobody who ever gets involved in UFOs or anything else makes $1 million, $100,000, even $10,000.
Yeah, no. Whitley Strieber, maybe. I mean, there's a number of people that have written fairly well-selling books, but take it from somebody who knows. You don't get into this particular area of inquiry to make a lot of money. You do it because you have a passion for the subject, and I don't think Len Kasten, if you asked him, would say that he came out very far ahead on the Serpo book. I mean, well, getting back to Serpo, I mean, is there any credible information, to your knowledge, that indicates that something like the Serpo scenario actually took place? And for our long-time listeners, they know what I'm talking about. But for people that don't know about Serpo, it basically, if you remember that scene from Close Encounters, where the orange jumpsuited Air Force personnel, whomever from the U.S. government, are lining up and then going on to the craft and going, I guess, back to the aliens' home planet. Serpo takes it from there and then appears to create a whole, I consider it to be a whole mythical story about what happened once they got to the alien planet and that sort of thing. But back to my question, Rick, do you think that there has ever been any sort of contact with an alien race where some sort of treaties have been made, some sort of understanding has been established, where we actually have some sort of ongoing dialogue with an off-planet intelligence?
Yes.
Yes? Do you want to elaborate?
Well, let me go back to Serpo a minute. Victor Martinez, I had no idea who Victor Martinez was. I met him through another guy, Joe Yeager, who was retired from the DIA. George contacted me and sent me these emails that Victor Martinez was sending out. And I got very interested in the subject. I was very fascinated by it. I'd never heard about Serpo, but what I did hear about was the alien that we captured in the deserts of New Mexico. He was he was just a mechanic, but he had a high IQ and he was very intelligent, a lot more intelligent probably than any of us. But he managed to get a communications device out of the craft and was able to power that device using one of their energy devices, and was able to send signals out to his planet. Now, he did this because we couldn't understand, we didn't know their language, and we didn't understand anything about the planet or where the planet was, but he was able to do this. And what he explained, as I read, was that they had a series of communications relay stations throughout space, and from Earth to his planet was, I believe, nine light years. I don't quote me on that. I don't remember the exact distance, but I believe it was 9. But anyways, and we were able to send messages that he was, and they received messages. We received messages back.
Let me ask you a quick question. Quick question, because we're going to run out of time for the next segment, and maybe we can frame this as you continue. Is this like a subspace radio where it's instantaneous back and forth? For otherwise, it would take 9 years each way. We've got Rick Doty, a cultural exchange program with ET. It almost begins to sound like something from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Is it something you should take seriously? More to come. With Gene, Chris, and Randall, you're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, we've made such a deal with HelloFresh, and it means that everyone listening to this show can receive $30 off your first week of deliveries when you go to HelloFresh.com and use the offer code Paracast30. With HelloFresh, you can choose the delivery day that works best for you. They've got a wide variety of chef-curated recipes that change weekly. And can you imagine me cooking Japanese panko chicken? It makes me feel like I'm a chef. It means also that you could actually get your meal cooked in 30 minutes. For busy people, this is perfect. The simple recipes include step-by-step instructions so even I can figure it out. Go to HelloFresh.com, use the offer code Paracast30 to get $30 off your first week of deliveries. HelloFresh.com.
ID Stronghold wallets are different. They may look the same on the outside. They're stylish. They'll hold your cards and cash. But they're hiding something great on the inside. No, there are no pyrotechnics. And it doesn't sing when you open it. But it does have magical powers. ID Stronghold wallets protect your critical information and identity from thieves standing right next to you. Anyone can buy a cheap RFID scanner online and snag your information just by walking past you. Contactless credit cards, debit cards, even your work ID badge. ID Stronghold was the first to pioneer RFID blocking technology over 12 years ago. ID Stronghold's wallets, sleeves, and badge holders are trusted by the U.S. military and the Executive Office of the President, something the competitors can't say. Secure your identity and save 10% by using coupon code MAGIC at checkout for a limited time at idstronghold.com. idstronghold.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I'm here to tell you about GCNtelecare.com, a team of board-certified doctors assisting you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Within 15 minutes of registration, care your family can afford. Revolutionizing the healthcare industry, virtual consulting providing diagnosis of non-emergency medical issues by phone or secure video on computer or smart mobile devices. GCNtelecare.com. Virtual care anywhere.
It's been said, any society is only 3 missed meals away from chaos. Those times may be near. Think about it. Our country faces multiple terrorist threats and aggressions from Russia and North Korea. Social unrest and violent marches yet again may lead to looting of stores and city shutdowns. And our crumbling infrastructure leaves our power grid vulnerable to long-term outages from a single cyber attack. When the chaos from any one of these threats arises, the government knows it can't provide during a widespread national emergency. That's why you need your own plan for self-reliance. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. Get a 4-week survival food supply for only $99. That includes breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Order online at preparewithgcn.com. $99 for 4 weeks of survival food that tastes like homemade cooking and lasts up to 25 years. From My Patriot Supply. Get your kits today at preparewithgcn.com. Free shipping is included. Preparewithgcn.com.
By now you know that wireless technology like cell phones do in fact pose dangers to the health and privacy of everyone. Blockit Pocket's wide range of products are unmatched in providing the protection you deserve. No scare tactics, just common sense. BlockitPocket.com offers quality American-made options to alleviate and eliminate these invisible dangers. Learn more at BlockitPocket.com or call 888-315-9618. BlockitPocket.com, enhancing health and privacy.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So, Rick, instantaneous communication across the stars or what?
I don't know. I don't have any information. All I know is what I read, that we were able to send messages and receive messages. Now, the problem, of course, is when the ET died in 1952, we had no way of translating any of this. So back to Serpo, part of Serpo is factual. We did communicate during the time he was alive. Now, I have no knowledge. I was never briefed in any program about what happened after he died. And if we were able to communicate, or whether we had some kind of method that he had given us, or maybe he taught some of our people how to do it, I don't have any of that information. But reading Serpo, some of that is factual. That's why I'm saying that DIA put this out for some reason, and I don't know what that reason is. But my friends, my contacts within DIA won't acknowledge it, but they do acknowledge that an exchange program was planned. Now, according to them, and this is not something I was briefed on by the government. Let me preamble that. I heard this from them, from the DIA people, years after I got out. They said that they had a plan based on the wishes of the ET that died in our captivity, that their race wanted the bodies back. So his job was to set up some kind of a contact where this alien race would come to Earth, pick up the bodies, maybe have an exchange, and then leave and go back. Now, according to my source, this actually happened, and that was the Socorro sighting, the Socorro incident, or the Holloman landing that occurred in 1964.
Wait a minute, those are two different incidences. Which one, Socorro?
No, not really. The Lonnie Zamora incident happened in April of 1964, and a couple days later, the Holloman incident allegedly happened. Now, I don't have any concrete proof that this ever happened, but from open source material and from other people telling me that happened during the same time frame. That what happened was the coordinates that were given to the ETs to come back were wrong. They were wrong, so they landed where the coordinates they were given, that was in Socorro, where actually they were supposed to land down near Holloman. And that's the story.
Wow, interesting. Dang. Where do you take that? I'm having a hard time with some of this, but if that's true, and I need to do, due diligence on this and do a little bit of research now and kind of confirm that would be very interesting. Of course, as you know, there's been quite a bit of, interest in, re-interest in the Socorro case, having passed the 50-year anniversary and some of the claims that are made to try to dissuade people from thinking that it's a real case, that it was a hoax by students down there. Ray Stanford, who, I feel is probably the most important person in ufology right now, has always maintained that the case was a real case and that no terrestrial craft could actually have been landing there based on our level of technology at the time. There's a lot of talk about secret space programs, exalted technology. Your 10 years at AFOSI, did you ever come across any indication that we have had the ability to create exotic craft that have been able to go to the moon prior to the Apollo landing, let's say, or go to Mars, have exotic propulsion systems that have been enable us to take ET home, as Ben Rich allegedly was supposed to have said in seriously say. To your knowledge, do we have anything that approaches some of the more sensational claims of insiders?
No, I don't know of any. I was never in the R&D area, so I've never heard that, except for the Cash-Landrum craft, which was obviously had a major malfunction. I personally wasn't ever briefed in any program that showed or proved that we could reverse engineer anything that we had gotten from the ETs.
Right, and that would make sense because you were in the investigative end, as you said. Not you didn't have a need to know about anything like that. Well, Robert Collins, exactly. Lincast, and others have touted Serpo as being the real thing. I remember at the time, back in 2005, if memory serves me correct, this was quite a sensational story. How much of it, do you think is real? And can you assign a rough percentage of what is real and what is complete disinformation and fabrication? And what would be the reason to fabricate this?
Well, the reason I have no idea. But what I had been told, let me go back to my briefing back in 1978. One part of the briefing stated that the extraterrestrial, the EBA-1, they referred to it, EBA, the EBA that we captured in Roswell, assisted in the United States government in a communications device that would contact his planet. That's it. That's the only statement that was in that document that pertained to that.
The ET phone home device.
If you take that and then look at Roswell and the people I talked to. Now, I've talked to, and just recently in 2014, I went back to Washington, D.C. for, unfortunately, a funeral of a colleague of mine, but a colonel, a full-board Air Force colonel who had had been assigned to the CIA during the time period I was working for OSI. He was Air Force, but he was assigned to the CIA. He told me in 2014, we sat around a hotel room talking, drinking a beer, and there were there were 6 of us total, and everyone in the room were joking about hoax books and all these stories that are going out regarding UFOs, which we know that are absolutely false. People make this stuff up. They use false sources and so forth. Anyways, we're joking. Somebody mentioned the Serpo, and this colonel, who was probably 80 some years old, he said, no, that really happened. And we thought initially he was joking because he was a practical joker, but he said no. He said it didn't involve 12 people. It involved 3 people. And it actually happened. And if you guys don't want to believe it, don't believe it. But that's what happened. So, and that's basically all it was said about Serpo. And I thought, wow, maybe it did happen. Maybe everybody got it wrong. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there. I know Linda Moulton Howell. I know some other people. Wendell Stevens was emphatic about it, that it actually happened. And he had supposedly proof of it, that it happened. But he never came forth with proof of that.
Well, you're bringing up some interesting, really tantalizing clues that perhaps some of this information could have a basis in reality.
We'll have the rest of Chris's question, our next segment with Randall, Gene, and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Are you one of the 70% of Americans that want to own your own business? Afraid to leave the security of your current job to pursue your dreams? I'm Pharmacist Keith. Dr. Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and myself want to show you a low-cost way to create your own business, working around your current job schedule, creating an extra income for you and your family by joining his crusade, spreading his message of better health. To learn more, visit radio.recordedvideo.com, radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com.
It's a no-brainer. A Big Berkey water filter is the one you need, period. You need a water filter that removes chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, BPA, and other endocrine disruptors, pesticides, bacteria, viruses, and much more, right? And does it all at only 2 cents per gallon. Get the original and most trusted name in gravity water filtration, Big Berkey. And now GCN listeners receive 5% off ceramic filter systems using code GCN. Call or click 1-877-99-BERKEY or BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business, so make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
Message and data rates may apply.
Remembering when to change your fridge filter is a hassle. Remembering the right filter is almost impossible. So at Filters Fast, we have some good advice. Forget it. Instead, remember this. Text BEST 33 to 443-443 and check fridge filters off your to-do list forever. Get it all taken care of for a fraction of big box store prices with a Filters Fast brand filter. To see how much you can save, plus get free shipping, text BEST 33 to 443-443. With a huge range of brand name filters available, Filters Fast is America's #1 online filtration company. And you can get a Filters Fast brand filter for a fraction of the price, delivered to your door every time you need it. No need to remember. It's not a matter of if you need a fridge filter. Why not text to get it taken care of? To see how much you can save and get free shipping, text BEST 33 to 443-443. That's BEST 33 to 443 443.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-261-9818 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-261-9818. Again, 800-261-9818.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
In a couple of moments, we'll start hitting on the discussions about disinformation, Paul Bennewitz, and some of the other issues our listeners want to know about. Chris?
Yeah, I was going to ask how much of this information that is out there, if you could assign a rough percentage, is disinformation, people's wishful thinking. I mean, I know as a counterintelligence officer, one of your jobs is to ferret out misinformation and disinformation. So you're a perfect person to ask, what percentage of the stuff that's being bannered around the internet, for instance, the David Wilcock, Corey Good, avian, bluebird aliens, Charles White and the tall white aliens outside of Area 51, and Billy Meyer and Semyasi. How much of this stuff is real, and how much of it is pure confabulation for whatever reason? What's your estimation on that?
What I've read and what I see on the internet or books that I've read, and I'm in my office here and I'm looking over and I have a full wall full of books I've read from late 80s on. I'd say probably 20% is accurate and the rest of it is baloney. There's stuff about Roswell that absolutely is so far-fetched lies that it makes people that were briefed into the program up sick to your stomach. And there's a lot of this stuff that people are written out there that are baloney. Now, there's some people that have written real books. I mean, there's one guy, I can't stand the person, Robert Hastings. I mean, he's one of the most obnoxious, and he said a lot of bad things about me. But he wrote a good book about missile sites and UFOs.
Yeah, UFOs and nukes.
Absolutely accurate. Yes, that book is, I mean, I don't like the guy, but he wrote a good book. That book is, and there's a lot of people within the intelligence community that says the same thing. That's very accurate.
Quickly, Rick, before we move on, what is your beef with Hastings? What doesn't he like about you?
He just thinks I'm a disinformation person, and that I made up the MJ-12 documents, which I went through two FBI investigations that proved that I didn't. I took polygraphs that proved I didn't. He at one time sent me an email saying he had been an OSI agent, which he lied about. He was never an OSI agent. He was never in the military. And then he just blasts me on the internet saying ridiculous and stupid things that it doesn't upset me anymore. I mean, I just consider the source. But, he wrote one good book. And I admit, I admire it. I mean, I do. I read the book. I read the book from cover to cover, and it was a very, very good book.
Okay, the disinformation thing is a very big issue, and you've been accused of engaging in disinformation. So MJ-12, is that real, or did someone do it, and who do you think did it?
I have no idea. I didn't know about that MJ-12 document. Now, let me go back to the briefing in 1978. The briefing in 1978 encompassed the Eisenhower briefing document. It was there, it was briefed, and they named it, and they mentioned that Eisenhower had been briefed, or Truman was briefed, Eisenhower was briefed, Kennedy was briefed. The presidents are always briefed. Reagan was briefed. But The actual document that was released to Jamie Shandera, Bill Moore, I obtained a copy from Jamie Shandera. He sent me a copy. Well, let me go back. I met with Jamie, and Jamie told me about the MJ Toad document. I was meeting with him on something entirely different, but he told me about it. And then when I got back to my office in Albuquerque, he sent me one, and I opened it up and I looked at it, and I thought, wow, most of it is what I remember, but there was a lot of differences. And so, I inquired to Jamie, where'd you get this from? Bill gave it to him. Bill got it from a contact in Washington, D.C. And, well, I knew who Bill's contact was in Washington, D.C. I knew it. I knew the guy. Bill never knew I knew it, but I knew who he was. And so at one point later on, I asked this person if he had sent anything to Bill Moore, and he denied it. So I don't know where it ever came from. It's based on real information, but it was retyped or recreated by somebody else, and I don't know who did that. Now, in 1987, the Air Force accused me of creating this document. So the FBI investigated it. I passed a polygraph, and they said, well, okay, you didn't do it, but the agent that was investigating this was convinced that the Air Force did it, or the government, maybe CIA, somebody else did it, and they wanted to get the information out, and that's why they did it.
Why pick you? Why select you as a possible suspect?
Because of my contacts with Jamie Shandera and Bill Moore.
Okay. Let me dovetail that to this other case, and that is, of course, Paul Bennewitz. What was your involvement in that?
Paul Bennewitz owned a business outside Kirtland Air Force Base, Thunder Scientific Laboratories. Paul Bennewitz had a contract, a government contract, to make a certain humidity monitor for submarines, for nuclear submarines. So he had a Department of Defense security clearance. Paul Bennewitz also lived right outside the gate, or right outside the fence line to Manzano weapons storage area, where they stored the nuclear weapons. And Paul Bennewitz came to the base and reported it to the chief of the base security that he had filmed some strange objects flying around Manzano Air Base, a Manzano storage site. Well, they used to call it Air Base, but it's storage site. And that he also he was picking up strange communications from the base. So he reported this to Major Ernie Edwards, who was the chief of the 1608th Security Police Squadron at Kirtland. Well, Major Edwards immediately reported that to me. I mean, actually, within an hour after the Bennewitz contacted him, he reported to me, and we started an investigation. And that's how I became involved in it.
Okay, so there's the accusation here that they were doing some screwing around with his mind that eventually made him go crazy. What's all that about?
Nah, that's a bunch of crap. What happened was, what Paul, and this isn't classified, it used to be classified, it isn't in classified anymore. What Paul was doing was obtaining some signals from a NSA site on the base. And the NSA site on the base, at one time highly classified, but now it's not, was bouncing signals off Soviet satellites as it was passing over. And Paul was able, from his house, because he was a scientist, he was a physicist, he made a device that was tapped into that. So when we found out about it, now NSA, this is the confrontation I talked about earlier. NSA started their own investigation because just imagine how many heads turned in Washington when we found out a civilian could tap into an NSA communications device. Anyways, what the plan was, and this was created by OSI, not me, not Rick Doty, but OSI formulated a plan and said, Rick Doty, implement this plan. And this plan was for me to convince Paul that what he was actually obtaining in communications was extraterrestrial. Now, when I first visited Paul Bennewitz and interviewed him after he reported this to Major Edwards, I went out there with another agent, Steve Adset, and we sat down and talked to him just to obtain basic information from him. And he kept saying to us, I have a lot more to tell you. I have a lot more to tell you. And I said, you know what, Mr. Bennewitz? We just want to know what you are doing as far as the photographs you've taken out of the base and what kind of communications that you receive.
Let's do our break here. We'll continue with the story of Paul Bennewitz and his interaction with Rick Doty. On the other side, Gene, Chris, and Randall, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on her distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body, Brain, and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Heart disease is on the rise. Clogged arteries, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol levels may not be fully detected by you, but the symptoms are there. Loss of energy, blood sugar spikes and drops, poor circulation, and irregular heartbeat are just a few of these that can alert you that something is wrong. Hear how Heart and Body Extract is making a difference in thousands of people's lives across America.
My blood pressure has normalized. My diabetes has totally improved.
Everyone is telling me now how much healthier I look, and I'm telling everyone how much healthier I feel. I recommend Heart and Body Extract to everyone.
Anybody over 40 in the North American continent should be using this product as a preventative to keep their cardiovascular system healthy.
Order your 2-month supply today by calling 866-295-5305. That's 866-295-5305. Or order online, hbextract.com. Heart and Body Extract, 866-295-5305 or hbextract.com.
Fully cooked, ready-to-eat bacon. I'm talking thick, meaty, center-cut presidential bacon. Savory and delicious. I buy some, I use some, I store some. Awesome. No refrigeration needed with a 10-year shelf life. NASA-packed technology. Bacon. Fully cooked, fully hydrated, ready to eat right from the packed bacon or warm and served. Life-saving, ready-to-eat bacon. 10-year shelf life bacon. Ships free at fullycookedbacon.com. Fullycookedbacon.com.
Hello, this is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Okay, with bated breath, we continue with Rick Doty talking about his interactions with Paul Bennewitz. Go on, please.
During that first meeting we had with Paul kept telling us he had more information. So I agreed to go out to his house and look at whatever he had. So a couple nights later, I went out with a person who had scientific knowledge and also was a former Blue Book investigator. His name was Jerry Miller. We went out to his house. We actually had a dinner with him. And then he started showing us all this equipment that he had. He went into his office upstairs, and he had a computer monitor. And he said, I can pick up extraterrestrial communications on this computer monitor. And everything that I'm doing out here is I think, it involves ETs. So I said, wow, that's amazing. So he allowed us to take some pictures and get some other information from him. And I went back and I presented that to my supervisor, wrote a report, sent it to my supervisors, and they come back with a plan saying, listen, since he's already believing this is UFOs related, just convince him that it is. And that what he's seeing isn't something that the base is generating out there is something, it's extraterrestrial. So when I went back to him again, I told Paul, I said, you know what, Paul, maybe you really have connected with extraterrestrials. He was thoroughly convinced that he was. So I didn't have to do anything to convince him. I just had to agree that he was communicating with ETs.
You were leading him on then. Basically, Rick, you were leading him on.
Yeah, I was leading him on. I wasn't denying it. I wasn't telling him it wasn't. But I would sit there, and a lot of this has been recorded, so I know what I did and I can prove later. I mean, OSI knows what I did. And I would just listen to him. I would sit there and just listen to him. He would talk literally for hours. You wouldn't have to say a word. He would go into this dissertation about what he did and what he's doing and where these aliens are from and what he's what he's collected over the I think it was like 11 months or something that he had been doing this. So I said, wow, this is fascinating. Well, in the meantime, I would go to the base. I would do a report after making contact with him, and I would then brief my boss, and then I would have a meeting with the NSA security people, and I would brief them because they're involved in this, obviously, because of their communications device. But they never once told me they were conducting their own investigation. Lo and behold, one night, a rainy night in Albuquerque, I was at Paul's house with Jerry Miller, and Paul was going to actually do a contact and actually communicate with the aliens, and we were there to see this. Well, I looked out his window, off his office window, and I see this house there's a house right across the street, big house, and there's I see lights moving in this window, and I'm just staring over at it, and I asked Paul, I said, who lives over there, Paul? He said, oh, that's a vacant house. And I said, that's vacant? I can see red lights. I see lights going on. Maybe somebody broke into it. So myself and Jerry Miller went down, and I walked around, kind of snooped around the house. It was pouring rain. And I thought, there's two cars parked behind the house. So I got the license plates off the house. I called into Albuquerque Police Department and I asked for a registration check on the plates, and they told me they belonged to a rental company out of Colorado Springs. And that really perked my curiosity, and I said, wow. So I then called a friend, a detective of Albuquerque Police Department that I worked with, and he came over, and we confronted the two men coming out of the house, and because we thought they would broken in, but lo and behold, they produced NSA credentials. And I said, "What are you guys doing here?" He said, "None of your business what we're doing here. We're government agents, and I said, "Well, are you spying on Paul Bennewitz across the street?" And they wouldn't say anything. Well, APD said, "Well, did you guys get permission to be in this house?" "Yes, we did. We rented it." Then they did. They had a rental agreement, so they rented the house. So there wasn't any crime committed. So when I went out to the base a couple of days later, and I talked to one of the chief of security out there for NSA, I don't remember his first name, was because they changed often, but his last name was Chandler. And I said, "What the heck is going on out here? You guys have an investigation on Paul Bennewitz?" He said, "I don't know anything about it." I said, "You guys are interfering with our investigation, and you're going to put a stop to this. So I'm going to go down and talk to the U.S. Attorney's Office about this. And this is crap." And so then he said, "Well, let me get some, get you cleared to get briefed into it." And no, it took about 3 weeks, and finally I was briefed in that they were conducting an investigation. Well, the problem is we were considered federal agents. We could do these things. NSA didn't have a federal mandate to investigate anybody inside the United States. Just like the CIA can't do that. But we found out later that these two guys were actually on loan to NSA from the FBI. So that's the confrontation.
It gets even more complicated. Well, there have been allegations, Rick, that Bennewitz was literally driven crazy with, weird things like rearranging his furniture, switching items in his kitchen from one cabinet to the other. Were you involved in anything like that? Administering drugs, for instance?
No.
Do you think the NSA was involved in doing things like that?
No. I can't speak for NSA. You'd have to find somebody in NSA to ask those questions. But OSI had absolutely nothing to do with the furniture. I know about the furniture incident. Paul called me. It was on a Sunday, and he called me on my phone, and he said, "Rick, I need you to come out to my house right away." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I just need you to come." So I go out there, and I said, "Yeah, what's wrong, Paul?" And he said, look at my furniture. And what somebody had done was moved all his dining room furniture into the den and moving all the den furniture into the dining room. And Paul says, "Who did this?" I said, "Paul, I didn't do this. I don't know who did this." His wife was all upset because she thought somebody broke into the house and did this. And I said, "Paul, I have no idea. I didn't do that." And then, of course, Paul was convinced the aliens did this. Well, I didn't do it. NSA would have had to done it. I never did any kind of break into his residence. I was accused of that. His son accused me of that. His son accused me of changing the furniture around. Paul had a cabinet in the kitchen that he had all his liquors in, and Paul was a drinker. And somebody had taken the liquor out and moved it into another cabinet above the refrigerator. I didn't do that. I didn't even know he had a cabinet with the liquor in it. So I think his wife was trying to get him to stop drinking and moved it personally, but I don't know. I mean, I can't say.
That's an interesting way to try to get your husband to start, slow down drinking.
Let me ask you a question quickly, which occurs to me now. The book from Greg Bishop, Project Beta, does that accurately reflect this story, or has he got these things wrong?
I had a conversation with him, with Bishop, about this, and he was right. He was going to write a book. He'd sent me part of a manuscript. He didn't send me the whole thing. It was like half a manuscript, and then there were notes. And I went through it and I crossed out and redlined it, and I sent it back to him. And then he published a book without ever change. Well, I didn't change it a whole lot, but he had some of this right, but he doesn't have all of it right. The incident that one of the things I did, I became friends with Paul. Paul invited my wife and myself over to the house for dinner. We went out to dinner. When this was all over with, I sat down with Paul and told him the truth. I told him the truth. And this was 4 years later. And Paul didn't believe me. He wouldn't believe me. He said, Rick, you don't have to tell me this. I know what's the truth. I know what I did was truth. I said, Paul, no. You tapped into some kind of classified device out of the base, and we were just trying to convince you that it was alien, but he would never believe me. Up to his dying days, he was thoroughly convinced that what he did was, in fact, true.
We got more to come with Rick Doty, the Paul Bennewitz case, and a lot more. With Gene, Chris, and Randall, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug-out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Frustrated trying to get business capital? Want to take the slow process and rejection out of the equation? GCNloans.com removes the slow, irritating approval process. Instead, get quick, simple funding. Powered by David Allen Capital, 80% of our pre-qualified clients are approved in days. Pre-qualify at GCNloans.com and get your money this week. It's that easy. GCNloans.com. That's GCNloans.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, Rick Doty, so till his dying day, he didn't believe you at all. Looking at the Bennewitz case from the perspective of the 21st century, is there anything we ought to learn from this episode? It might have been handled better, because it doesn't sound like it was handled all that well.
Well, it was handled as far as the government went. He never published anything. He didn't go to the press and say, hey, I tapped into a classified NSA communications device out of Kirtland. We kept it under cover, and
you did your job. I mean,
we did our
job. The thing, it didn't come out. But what did come out, Rick, as a result of his deflection of his interest up to Dulce, including the infamous helicopter flight with Captain Edwards, where supposedly there was actually a flyby. Why was he flown up there? Why was he told things about Dulce and Archuleta Mesa that he became totally not only fascinated by, but obsessed with? My good friend and fellow researcher Ron Regier has quite a number of letters, handwritten letters from Bennewitz, that was all predicated on his attention being diverted from Kirtland up to the Dulce area, where he then started, I guess, obsessing with the whole idea of an alien base underneath there, crashed craft on the top of the mesa, which has now spawned almost a cottage industry of Dulce base whistleblowers and confabulators, as far as I'm concerned, about that particular part of New Mexico. What was the thinking, and who was behind the diversion of his attention up to Dulce?
Well, Paul, he was a pilot, and Paul flew his private plane and observe and photograph Archuleta Mesa.
But you guys took him up there first. The Air Force took him there first. He would not have gone up there on his own unless you guys had diverted his attention there.
No, that's not true. Absolutely not true. That's absolutely wrong. I would know, and he told us a number of times. In fact, the first first time we met him at his house, he showed us pictures. He had on his wall above his computer of these pictures, and Jerry Miller asked him, "Where are those? Where'd you take those?" And Paul said, "I'm a pilot. I took those up the Archuleta Mesa. That's where the UFO base is at." And I looked at him like, I didn't know where Archuleta Mesa was at that time. I said, "What are you talking about, Paul?" And he told us, and he showed us on the map. Okay, and then we didn't ask him anything about that until sometime later, when he brought it up again to us that he had recently went up there with this other person. He met a state police officer up there. And the state police officer showed him things.
Yeah, Gabe Valdez.
Gabe Valdez. I know Gabe, and I've talked to Gabe a number of times. He's deceased now, but before he died.
So you're saying that Bennewitz's interest in Archuleta Mesa had nothing to do with your particular involvement with him, that this was all done on his end, and then he brought you into this based on his theories about the area.
Yes.
Let me ask you this.
Well, let me explain. Let me explain what we did.
All right.
We did go up there. I went up there with him. Me and another one of our pilots. We had a Air Force OSI agent that was a pilot, and we flew up there. And we landed at an airstrip, and we got a vehicle and drove over, and we drove around it. And Paul then told us that we need to be up here at night. So I said, "Listen, this is us. Just stay up here and see if we see anything." So we did. We stayed up there, and we did. We saw helicopters come in. We see all this activity on the top of Archuleta Mesa, which made me think, "What the heck's going on here?" So the next day when we went back, I started checking into it. I thought, "What the heck could be? There's military helicopters flying all over there." So I made a lot of inquiries. It took me some time to figure out. But I finally contacted Fort Carson, Colorado, and asked them if they had a training facility in New Mexico. And the person that I spoke to was one of the operations officers for a flight unit up there. And he said, "Well, I can't really discuss this on phone." So anyways, I went up there. I went temporary duty up to Fort Carson. I had to submit a security clearance request through the Army. Anyways, I went up there. And they sat down and showed me what they had. And they had a training facility at Dulce up there on Archuleta Mesa. They've had that for a number of years, and they trained special forces there. And what we saw and what Paul saw is in the ground, they had these spotlights built underground that would shine up. And it would be for the aircrafts to navigate to a point, or they call it point navigation. And we saw those lights, and it made me think that there was something extraterrestrial too. Then we figured it out. And the fact that every one of those helicopters up there were black helicopters.
Yeah, this makes perfect sense. I've been saying that that's a training ground up there for quite a while. It just makes the most sense. And so that's pretty much a confirmation of the whole thing, if it's true. Let me ask you this question too. Like, when Paul was going to introduce you to some of the evidence, some of the recordings, some of the actual communications, did you ever get to hear any of the communications or see the actual transmitter on the base?
Yes.
Okay, so you actually know for sure that he was picking up this base transmitter and that it was just a mistake, and that he wasn't actually picking up anything extraterrestrial then?
Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. And I'm not a technical person, but I was sat through a briefing on it at NSA and explained exactly how they were doing this and how they were sending signals up and what the signals were and what wavelength and all that.
Were these digital burst transmissions, early digital burst type transmissions?
Yeah, they had two different ways of doing it. They had one with a laser. They would shoot. They would call that they would blind shoot. They would shoot a laser up at the Soviet. They'd know exactly when the Soviet satellite would be at a certain point in the sky, and when that satellite got to the certain point,
turn the volume down.
Okay, sure. Sorry.
They would shoot a laser up, and it would temporarily blind the camera. And then they would shoot a pulse signal, they said burst pulse up, and hit something, an antenna or whatever, and it would bring that same signal back down to the ground, and then NSA could then decode it or whatever they did later with it. And that's what it was explained to me.
Okay, but you never actually heard that on Bennewitz's system. It's just
yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay.
Many times.
Okay, what did it sound?
He had quite a number of recordings.
What did it sound like to you? Could you make out anything specific?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you interpret it. You know, it's like everybody, you could hear it, and I would hear it, and somebody else would hear it, and you'd say, "Well, that sounds like somebody trying to talk." I'd say, "It just sounds like garbling, intermittent garbling." And somebody might say, "No, it sounds just like a signal, some kind of signal." So I heard it. Jerry Miller heard it. We recorded it. In fact, he had this reel-to-reel tape recorder, this old Sony or whatever it was. And he would record everything on that, and he would give us the discs, and we would go back and we would, listen to it. And then we'd send it up to our headquarters. I'm sure it went over to NSA after that. But you could listen to it and you could hear things. It never actually sounded like language to me, but Paul actually, over the period of time, had written down what he thought the language would be or what they were trying to say to him.
So was that audio pareidolia?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Right.
Well, okay, a quick change of subject here. You've mentioned Colorado on 3 occasions here. I don't know how much you know about my work, but I spent quite a number of years, 10 years, solid years, investigating the area north of Taos up into southern Colorado in the San Luis Valley. Is that area, has that area figured in any sort of aspect of your work? Have you done any sort of work up into the San Luis Valley area?
Let's have that answer in our next segment with Gene, Chris, and Randall and Rick Doty. You're in
the Paracast.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Have you checked your Google search results lately? Search results are usually the first impression that people form of you or your business. So make sure that they create a positive impression with ReputationDefender.com. What the internet says about you can have a big impact on your life and your livelihood, even if it's not true. Fortunately, you can now control how you look online and in online search results with ReputationDefender.com. Call 800-831-0771 now. That's 800-831-0771 for your free Reputation reputation analysis. If you have negative material from an ex-employee, upset patient, or former client, newspaper article, legal issue, social media, or other source showing up in your search results, you can combat it with ReputationDefender.com. Our dedicated experts in patented technology can help make your online search results look their best. Call 800-831-0771 to learn more. 800-831-0771. That's 800-831-0771. Or visit ReputationDefender.com.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to goberkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. goberkey.com.
Non-attorney paid spokesperson. Could your house go into foreclosure? Are you behind on your mortgage payments? Does it seem like the bank has no interest in helping you save your home? And you feel like you have nowhere to turn for help? Then we have good news for you. Foreclosure Protection Services can help save your home as they specialize in foreclosure assistance. That's all they do. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, being threatened with foreclosure, have been denied a loan modification, or been the victim of a predatory loan, it's critical that you call Foreclosure Protection Services now at 800-667-9035. Their network of attorneys and their agents are available to speak to you now. If you're behind on your mortgage payments, Foreclosure Protection Services can help stop the foreclosure process. Call today before it's too late. New laws are in effect that may save your home. Call Foreclosure Protection Services now at 800-667-9035. 800-667-9035. That's 800-667-9035.
You haven't experienced yogurt until you've tried a Mossy, embodying health and flavor in a true whole milk, green-fed dairy beverage. Every sip pays homage to our old world cows and the ancient culturing methods their milk benefits from. With over 30 probiotics, a Mossy's undeniably nutritious, refined, cultured sensation bolsters your health and awakens your passion for dairy. A Mossy's so good, and you need to try it. Contact your Youngevity distributor or call 877-878-4203 or go to gcnteam.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Rick Doty, Chris's question about the mysterious valley. Any response?
San Luis Valley, yeah, very, very interesting. I have a number of stories to tell about that place. But I did one investigation up there. It was a Colorado National Guard helicopter. They were flying a mission on a weekend in that area from one place to another. I can't remember the exact locations, but it was in the summer of, I believe, of 82 or 83. But it was a Huey UH-1N National Guard helicopter and two pilots in it, a pilot and co-pilot, and they were flying and they encountered something. And the co-pilot took a picture of it. He had a camera with him, and he always took this camera every time he flew, and he would just take pictures of the ground or the helicopter or whatever. And he actually had a camera. It was a Canon AE-1, a pretty good camera back then. And he took a number of pictures of this craft. In fact, the craft flew above the helicopter, which forced, anything about flight. The helicopter has to have lift, and it flew, causing the helicopter to go downwards, not crash or anything, but the pilot had to make evasive maneuver and actually landed on the ground. I believe it was near Buena Vista. Now I think of it. Anyways, and so they were all startled by it. Well, then they reported it they took back off, flew to their base, reported it to their people. Eventually they got back to us. I went up there, I interviewed both pilots. Both helicopter pilots were commercial pilots, they're weekend warriors. And they never seen anything flying before like that. Never encountered anything. But the pictures that they had that I sent to headquarters were of a saucer-shaped object. And he said this thing followed them around. They tried to evade it, and it would be behind them. It would be above them. It would be below them. And he said eventually it went off towards to Saguache, a place called Saguache. And he was convinced that it landed in Saguache. Now, if you're aware of where Saguache is in Colorado, we went over there. We snooped around there. We went up the pass. I think it was Buffalo Pass, and looked all around. We didn't see anything.
Cochito.
But Cochito Pass. Okay, yeah, there you go. Anyways, that's the only case I ever handled in Colorado involving this, and we had no answer for it. I don't know what it was. It was. I mean, these pictures were very, very, very clear pictures. Unfortunately, he asked us to give him copies. I promised him, but I never did, because OSI said no. You ain't getting these back. So that's the only case.
Sounds typical. Well, what about the cattle mutilation scenario and that mystery? Have you ever been involved in any way, shape, or form in investigating that particular mystery, or have you heard of anything relating to official interest in that subject?
I know that there was 2 OSI agents assigned to Los Alamos laboratories. And they conducted investigations up there, mostly suitability and espionage and things like that. But they had been briefed into the program. I had a training session up at Los Alamos once with both of these agents. We were in the same room. There's probably 10 agents. And it was nothing. It had nothing to do with UFOs. And when we had a break, I mentioned to one of them, or one of them mentioned to me, I understand you know Linda Howell. And I said, yeah, I know Linda. And they kind of looked at each other and laughed. And I said, why? You know? He said, oh, we know all about the cattle mutilations. And that was the only thing. And I took it that they knew a lot about it, but I don't know what they meant by that. And I never had an opportunity to question about it again. But me personally, I never had any cases involving cattle mutilations. Or I listened to Gabe Valdez talk about him and he had a scrapbook or a photo album of what he'd taken. But other than that, I never had anything to do with him.
We've got a couple more questions from our forum participants, if that's okay. We've got one from Gestron. This is just shifting gears a little bit. Gestron asks, is it true that you acted as a consultant on the X-Files?
Not directly, no. I wrote some. I'm not a professional scriptwriter, but I wrote some stories for the X-Files, and somebody took them and gave them to Chris Carter. So I didn't directly work for the X-Files, but they used some of the things I wrote.
Like what?
MJ-12 stuff.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Were you paid for them?
This guy paid me, yes. He was a independent writer. He provided information for a number of movie scripts and TV programs. He did some things for the History Channel. So I think he worked for. He was a broker of the information. Again, I'm not quite sure how, but he paid me for it.
How come you haven't written a book, Rick? I mean, you are an amazing wealth of information, and your work history would suggest that a book about your time in OSI would make a really amazing book, and possibly even a great screenplay. Have you ever considered that?
I've written screenplays, but in fact, I've written one just recently. I can't talk about it. And I've written with another person some science fiction book. I wrote a book, a manuscript for a book in 2010. It took me about 3 years to write it. I had a couple people help me, and it was a tell-all type of book. And I had to submit it to the Air Force for approval. And I submitted it, and I didn't hear anything. I kept calling, and Air Force finally sent me a letter, which I think Art Bell had put up on Coast to Coast site, which said that that we had to censor your manuscript, and they would send it back to me. When I got it back, out of 347 pages, there were 11 pages that weren't heavily redacted.
So this is worse than the Democratic memo from the about the FISA warrants. It's like all blacked out. I want to talk about more of this, and Chris and I and Randall. I'm going to ask you an interesting question because we only have 2 segments left. It's really moved that fast. And Rick, if you're up to it, I'd like to get you back on here. Maybe you can tell us more of the stories that you have to convey. So here's the question, and this will be something that we'll leave for the cliffhanger. Some people say you are a person or individual known as Falcon. What's the real story? More to come with Gene, Chris, and Randall. You're in
Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Tired of being censored by Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Patreon? Well, now you don't have to be. OneWay.com is the free speech and human-friendly social network built just for you. Stop feeding the beast. Every post you make on those evil, anti-human, anti-American perverted sites helps them destroy our families, our country, and our souls. Join One Way today and take back your liberty. Your free speech alternative is waiting for you at OneWay.com. OneWay.com.
It's a no-brainer. A Big Berkey water filter is the one you need, period. You need a water filter that removes chlorine, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, BPA, and other endocrine disruptors, pesticides, bacteria, viruses, and much more, right? And does it all at only 2 cents per gallon. Get the original, most trusted name in gravity water filtration, Big Berkey. And now GCN listeners receive 5% off ceramic filter systems using code GCN. Call or click 1-877-99-BERKEY or BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
Hello?
Congratulations.
For what?
For losing all that weight. How'd you do it so fast?
ASAP.
ASAP what? What's that mean?
Are you ready to get as skinny as possible, as soon as possible, as simple as possible, and as sexy as possible?
I'm listening.
Then get with the ASAP program. It's real and it works. No smooth talk, no slick advertising, and no exaggerated claims of success.
I've got to know more.
Welcome to ASAP, as slim as possible. Whether you have 10, 20, or 50 pounds to lose, ASAP is your weight loss answer. ASAP targets the abnormal fat reserves and makes them available to be burned as fuel and contains no caffeine or hormones. Order ASAP at wholesale prices or join the team to share the business with others. Go to GCNteam.com or call 855-GCN-MALL. That's 855-426-6255. GCNteam.com or 855-426-6255. Lose weight and look great with ASAP, as slim as possible.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-5759. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-959-5759. That's 1-800-959-5759. 1-800-959-5759.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Okay, I asked the question, the cliffhanger. Who or what is Falcon, and why have you sometimes been identified as that individual?
Well, first of all, I'm not Falcon. I wasn't involved in naming the aviary. I had nothing to do with it. In fact, the aviary was out months before I ever knew who was supposed to be who. But the actual Falcon, the person that was referred by Bill Moore as Falcon and named actually by Bill Moore, and somebody that Bill Moore knew, and somebody that I knew very, very, very well because my dad knew him, was Richard Helms, the former director of Central Intelligence. Richard Helms was the Falcon, so to speak, that they codenamed, not me. I wish I'd been, but no, it wasn't me. Absolutely not. People accuse me of it. I mean, I think there's like 2 chapters in somebody's fantasy UFO book about me being Falcon and all, tracing me from point A to point B and all that stuff, which is absolutely baloney.
There was also a reference in one manuscript I haven't finished it yet, where they're talking about the aviary and people involved in it, and they even mentioned Bill Moore, as somehow being involved in some kind of operation to handle the Soviets and the Soviet threat during the Cold War. What's that all about?
Yes, that's true. One of the first contacts I had with Bill Moore involved a counterespionage operation. Bill Moore had a pen pal in the Soviet Union who was a scientist. Bill Moore would write his pen pal letters once a month or every 6 weeks or 8 weeks, back and forth. Bill could speak and write some Russian. He's actually pretty good at it. And we got wind of it. The intelligence community knew Bill Moore had this contact. Now, I'm not going to go into details of how we knew, but you put 2 and 2 together, you figure it out. But anyways, we knew, and then I approached Bill and asked him about it, and asked him if he would be cooperating with us about what he sent to this person and what he received back from him. And Bill said yes, and that's how Bill became involved in a counterespionage operation.
Interesting. Well, this Falcon was also mentioned in the Bennewitz case as well, though. So, I mean, what connection is there there? Now, is that...
You're assuming that these people are writing factual things about the Falcon was mentioned in the Bennewitz. You got to go back to the person who wrote this and consider what kind of information they got, which was absolutely baloney. Richard Helms was never involved in the Bennewitz case. I can guarantee you that.
There was also someone else suggested to have been Falcon, and by the name of Harry Rositsky. Do you know anything about that?
I knew of him. I met him one time, but he wasn't the Falcon that I knew of and Bill Moore knew of.
There could have been 2 people, different people with the same code name, so to speak.
Well,
or what?
I guess you could say that. But I know the real Falcon, and I know Harry, and he knew a lot about what the CIA knew about and the DIA knew about UFOs, but he was never in the circle that I kept.
We've got another question here from our forum people. What's your take on the To the Stars Academy venture with DeLong and the role of Elizondo and Mellon, who were once part of the DoD? Any insight there that you might, just intuition, or What do you think of that whole thing? I mean, they're into the entertainment thing. Maybe they'd be interested in some of the stories you've got to tell.
I've had contact with them. I don't necessarily agree with their plan, and I think that they're not telling the truth. DOD is intimately involved in the investigation of UFOs, still have been. They're releasing a fragment of information about a program that the Air Force had for a few years, which really is just the tip of the iceberg of what they're still doing. So if they don't want to come forth and break and release everything, I think they're doing it piecemeal in order to get people to invest into something, rather than just coming out and saying, hey, this is what we did, this is what we're doing, this is what DOD is doing, and they're not doing that.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, that's for sure. Although some people might say, well, they have to do it piecemeal because that's how they're getting it from their sources. So,
the quality of the actual visual data that's being released is 70s, era quality. This is all being, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, but this is all being carefully orchestrated with the full cooperation behind the scenes of the Department of Defense or DIA, or somebody is manipulating this whole thing from behind the scenes. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, if you listen to one of the interviews, I can't remember which one it was the interview, but anyways, he mentioned something about, well, the public information officer said, why would he mention that? Why would he mention a public information officer?
No, you're talking about one of the pilots, or?
Yeah, one of the pilots they interviewed said something about, so did they have to clear it through there, or that just kind of threw it off for me.
Well, I mean, their statements seemed to have been memorized and I think scripted. I mean, I saw, I didn't even see all of them, but everyone that I saw, I mean, we get the exact same languaging, the same inflection even on certain parts of the responses to questions and that sort of thing. This seems highly orchestrated to me, and as someone that has had an expertise in disinformation and in these types of programs, what is your take? Who is behind, truly behind, who's the puppet master behind this particular scenario? And do you think that it is Hal Puthoff and Chris Mellon and these people? Do you think that they've been put up for this? Do you think that Tom DeLonge is just a convenient figurehead, sort of wet behind the ears kid that's been selected to be the front person for this? I mean, what's your take on it? Let's get a little sort of an insider view on this.
It's hard to say. I think the government wants this out, but they don't know how to do it. It's a fiasco, so to speak. If they would have, if you think back to the 50s when the Air Force, the government knew exactly what they did and what they had, if they would have just came out then, we wouldn't be in this situation today. So, I think it's a calamity of errors, and I don't think there's any one person. I think there's maybe a group of people that's trying to get it out, but they really don't know how to, and that's my take on it.
Now, then there was an aside to the Bennewitz case, like when it's often said that there was a bunch of harm done with the Bennewitz case, but in another interview, you kind of alluded to some other operations where actually, Bennewitz was pretty mild, and there was other cases that were far more serious, but you weren't able to tell us much about those. Do you think you could elaborate a little bit on other cases you might know about where things that were more serious happened in relation to investigating unidentified flying objects?
Well, there was one in Utah. There was an incident that happened in Utah in the 80s I don't remember the date, year, early 80s, maybe. Anyways, OSI in Hill Air Force Base had received a letter from a man who lived outside Dugway Proving Grounds in a trailer.
We're coming up on the final segment of the Paracast this week with Rick Doty. There's a lot to talk about, and as you probably can tell already, there are subjects we may only be able to cover in passing. And what that means is we hope that Rick will see clear to return to the Paracast in the very near future that we're just not going to get to. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
First came Attack of the Rockoids, and it was a critically acclaimed success. And now there is The Coming of the Protectors. A former military intelligence man is contacted by a space woman in a dream that turns out to be a nightmare because evil forces on our distant planet are planning to conquer the Earth. This is gripping science fiction of the classic kind. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Find out more at rockoids.com. That's Rockoids, ROCKOIDS.com.
The answer to being in control of your own healthcare is freedom from insurance. Become part of a group of self-pay patients that come together to share in each other's medical expenses. Individual share amounts begin at $107 a month and $347 for families. Choose from 3 health-sharing programs. Holistic treatments may be eligible for sharing. See guidelines. Discount programs available for dental, vision, and pharmacy. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
I'm Holly Thomas, Group Vice President of Cause Marketing for Macy's. Every baby deserves the best possible start, but not all babies get one. March of Dimes is changing that. You can help us lead the fight for the health of all moms and babies. Join me and Macy's to March for Babies. Let's raise funds and be champions for families near and far. Together, we are building a brighter future. Sign up for Macy's team today at marchforbabies.org.
Bitcoin is losing crypto market share to other digital currencies. Bitcoin's astronomical rise has led to the creation of numerous competitors like Ethereum, Ripple, and Litecoin, which have also seen massive gains in value. According to Quartz, Bitcoin made up 85% of the crypto market 1 year ago, and today it has fallen to 36%. Remember, the only way to win in the casino is to take chips off the table. Call Miles Franklin at 866-485-4346 and let us show you how to quickly turn your Bitcoin into the 5,000-year-old safety of precious metals. Miles Franklin can quickly convert your Bitcoin to precious metals with one phone call at 866-485-4346. That's Miles Franklin celebrating our 29th year in business without ever receiving a customer complaint. Call us at 866-485-4346. Fast, easy, safe, and convert your Bitcoin into gold with one phone call.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I'm here to tell you about GCNtelecare.com, a team of board-certified doctors assisting you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Within 15 minutes of registration, care your family can afford. Revolutionizing the healthcare industry, virtual consulting providing diagnosis of non-emergency medical issues by phone or secure video on computer or smart mobile devices. GCNtelecare.com. Virtual care anywhere.
Hi, this is Bryce Abel. I'm the producer of Dark Skies, the co-author of AD After Disclosure, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Final segment with Rick Doty. Let's finish the story and go on. Rick?
Okay, OSI in Hill Air Force Base received a letter from a man who identified himself as a retired photographer from Dugway Proving Grounds. He lived at a trailer some distance from Dugway, and he claimed to have contact with extraterrestrials. He took pictures of them and so forth and so on. So the OSI up there contacted me. I went up there. We went out to talk to the man. The man was dying of cancer. He had been a civilian photographer at Dugway Proving Grounds for 25 or some years, and he is retired. He'd been retired for a number of years, but he was a professional photographer. Did great photography. He claimed that aliens in spacecrafts would land behind his residence in the middle of the desert, behind his trailer. And he took all these pictures. He made contact with him. He became friends with him. And so we looked at all the photographs, and lo and behold, he couldn't have made this up. He couldn't have photoshopped it because it didn't Photoshop back then. But everything he showed us looked to be legitimate.
What's the time frame on this?
In the 80s, 81, 82, maybe 83, sometime in that time frame. So we got very interested in it, but I only visited him twice, and then they turned that over to another team of OSI agents who came in from headquarters, and so I'm not really sure what all developed after that. But he had some sensational photographs of extraterrestrials. These creatures were kind of hideous looking, and the crafts. He had pictures taken inside the craft. They'd given him some gifts, and he had these gifts, and he was going to die. He had terminal lung cancer. He smoked even when we were there. He was smoking continuously. But he gave us everything, including these gifts, and then they all went to headquarters somewhere, and they're stuck there now. Probably 4 or 5 or 6 months, I guess, after I had left, and he had died.
Could you describe what the beings look like?
They were tall. They were probably 6 foot tall. They had long arms, thin bodies. They had suits. They had suits on, and they had to, according to him, occasionally breathe. They had some kind of a respirator or something, and they would have occasionally breathe something, gas or more oxygen or something. They had a face similar to probably the most hideous alien you could pick up on the internet. He probably, I tell you what, if you have a copy of UFO Aliens magazine, I think it's the Ultimate Guide. There's a picture inside of an extraterrestrial, and that's kind of what it looked like. It was kind of hideous looking. It would be very scary for somebody. I mean, it probably would be very intimidating to somebody who'd never seen one to sit in front of him and talk to one. But apparently, according to him, they spoke English. He communicated in English.
Like
vocally. What's wrong with that picture? Wow.
Interesting.
Exactly.
What about the gifts? What sort of artifacts were they?
The one gift was looked like a picture frame, and when you stared into it, you could see movement, and it was of their solar system or their planet. It was a picture, but it was I don't know what kind of picture you could. I don't even know how you could explain it.
Like an iPad or something.
Or a wish you were here moving postcard.
That's an iPad with just one picture of their planet, their solar system. I think it was solar system and planet. And then they gave him a bracelet. And the bracelet, well, I didn't put it on, but when he says he put the bracelet on, it gave him visions of the universe.
Wow. Okay. Well, this turned out to be a very interesting episode. We're so glad to have had you on today.
Yeah, and for the record, have we been okay? Have we been polite? Have we sort of rattled your cage? Or, I mean, have you felt comfortable? Did we do okay? We've had a couple of shows recently where people said we've been badgering our guests. I hope that we didn't come across that way. I know you had some reservations about coming on the show and doing radio in particular. Would you be willing to come back and take up a part 2? Because I tell you, Rick, this is fascinating stuff, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear that you're coming back on the show and discussing some more of these fascinating revelations that you've been sharing with us.
Yeah, I would come back on, provided that my schedule permitted. I'm contracted with a film company. They're making a film out in Nevada, and I've been out there on and off for the last 6-7 weeks. So, and we probably have another 6 or 7 weeks left film a shoot out there. This week they're not filming.
Okay, we'll work it out for you. We'll definitely work it out because we do want to get you back. Like, we want to talk a little bit more about your interactions with Linda Moulton Howe, but we only have 2 minutes left.
That would take hours.
Okay.
I'd like to hear some more about this movie you're doing too. And,
I was going to say, when are you going to be able to talk about that?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I can't discuss anything until it comes out. It's
no teasers.
So, well, it's about Area 51 and Tonopah Test Range and some secrets that have been leaked out, and we actually were able to get in the Tonopah Test Range to film at some 2 locations with some very unique permission, and we were highly monitored by the security people. But it's going to be interesting.
What's your role? What's your role in the project? How are you designated?
I'm an advisor. I actually sent in the original idea and to a company, a guy that used to work for the History Channel, and then they hired me. So that's how I got involved.
So then you're basically, aside from this, essentially retired, right?
I'm retired. Yeah, I'm fully retired. Yeah, I do this and I do some consulting and other things.
Well, so thank you so much for agreeing to be on the show. It's been fascinating. I'm sure this is going to be one of the more popular episodes in the 10, 11-year history of the program, and I mean that. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, and we really look forward to getting you back because, like you said, this has been merely an introduction to a very fascinating career and insights into some of the most important mysteries that we have remaining as a culture. So we really thank you and appreciate your coming on, and look forward to continuing the conversation.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
Obviously, you don't have a website yet.
No, I did have one once, but it was crashed and hacked. But no, I don't have a website. I have an email address, and I get hundreds and hundreds of emails. I'm sure I'm going to get 1,000 now from people. I have a lot of fans. I have a heck of a fan base, but I have a lot of enemies too.
You can find us, by the way. Our address on Twitter is the Paracast. You can also find us on Facebook, where we have, by the way, 2 official Paracast fan clubs. We've not mentioned the fact that we have a special subscription service called the Paracast Plus. We offer the After the Paracast podcast, which can be Monday morning quarterbacking, after show commentary, special continuing interviews, and obviously we'll have a few things and comments to say about Rick Doty's appearance in the Paracast and the hope for a future appearance. We also offer a version of this show free of the network ads. So those of you on YouTube who constantly complain about the ads, this is the solution. I always explain it to them, by the way, that if you want an ad-free version, because we're offering the same network version that every GCN listener gets, if you want the ad-free version, just check plus.theparacast.com. Point your browser to plus.theparacast.com. We offer the ad-free version of the Paracast, the After the Paracast podcast that has no breaks whatever, and is basically uncensored, and lots of other really good stuff. And by the way, in future episodes, we're working on something where we might talk with Paul Kimball and Stanton Friedman, who's retiring from UFO research. That's going to be interesting in the future. And I want a special thank you to Randall Murphy, for working with me and Chris on this show. Rick Doty, thank you so much for joining us on the Paracast.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.